Review packet, page 5. All right, you have an inequality. So the first thing we have to do is subtract the 1 over to the other side. So I get 6 over x minus 1 minus 6 over x minus 1 over 1 less than or equal to 0. Now the reason why I wrote it as 1 over 1 was because these guys were fractions. So I might as well make this a fraction. And now we need a common denominator. So I'm going to times this by x. This by x minus 1, and this by both x and x minus 1. Okay, so now we've got 6x over x minus 1, minus, distribute this, 6x minus 6 over x, minus x squared minus x all over x minus 1. Okay, so now I'm going to put it all together, being careful to distribute the negative or the minus signs to everything. So this makes, let's make it longer here, 6x, this guy, minus 6x, negative to negative makes plus 6, minus x squared plus x. Now I'm going to bring it up here. So if you notice, the 6x's are gone, and I end up with negative x squared plus x plus 6 all over x minus 1, less than or equal to 0. Now, anytime there's a negative out in front, I want to factor out a negative 1, so it's easier to work with. And when you factor out a negative 1, it changes all of the signs. And now I can factor this. This makes x minus 3x plus 2 all over x minus 1, less than or equal to 0. All right, it's number line time. What are all the things that make the numerator 0? Positive 3, and we're going to make a solid dot because there's a line underneath it. Negative 2, again, solid dot because there's a line underneath it. Now, let's look at the denominator. That makes it 0. Where would 0 be? Up there. That's going to be an open circle. Anything in the denominator makes it an open circle. And positive 1, which would also be an open circle. And now what we're going to do is test each interval. And we want answers that are negative. So let's plug in 4. So 4 makes negative 1, 1, 6, 4, and 3. All I care about is whether the answer is positive or negative. 1 negative means negative. So we're going like that. Now I'm going to plug in 2. So that makes negative 1, 4, 2, and 1. Double negatives make a positive, so I'm not going to fill it in. Let's do 0.5. Negative 1. A half, that makes negative 2.5. Makes 2.5. 0.5. And negative 0.5. 3 negatives make a negative, so I'm going to do that. Now let's try negative 1. Four negatives make a positive, so I'm going to leave that blank. And now do negative 3. Okay, how many negatives? 1, 2, 3, 5. So that's negative. So my answer is going to be negative infinity to negative 2, solid bracket, union, soft bracket to soft bracket, union, hard bracket to positive infinity, soft. And there's my answer. All right, that's that guy. So watch pulling out the negative. Now, absolute value. There's a big blob here. I'm going to get rid of that. Absolute value, you always have to do the original, which would be x plus 1 equals 2 times x minus 1. So you do the original. Do it where you negate this side. So I'm going to do negative x plus 1, x minus 1. And then when you negate this side, so I'm going to do x plus 1 equals negative 2, x minus 1. So I'm going to do 3 different scenarios. This will be x plus 1 2x minus 2. Subtract the x over. Add over the 2, so I get 3. Okay. This one I have to distribute the negative. I'm going to add over the x. I'm going to add over the 2. So I get x equals 1/3. And this one, I'm going to distribute the negative 2. I'm going to add over the 2x. Subtract the 1, so I get 1/3 again. Now, just like radical equations, you have to check absolute value equations. So I'm going to plug 3 into the original. So that becomes 3 plus 1, that's 4. Will that equal 2 times 3 minus 1 is 2? Does 4 equal 4? Sure does, so I'm going to circle him. Now I'm going to check the 1/3. 1/3 plus 1 is 4/3. Okay. Does that equal 2 times 1/3 minus 1? Well, that's 2 times negative 2/3. But the absolute value of that makes that 2/3. So that works as well. So those are the answers. And this guy obviously will work too. So both of those are the answers. All right, the last one on this page, number 16. Find the center and radius of the circle. Now, this is when we made the families, the X family, the Y family. Oops, sorry for the yawning. The problem is there's a number in front of the X squared and Y squared. So we have to get rid of that first. So I'm going to divide everything by 3. So that makes X squared plus Y squared plus 2/3 X equals 1/3. All right, now I'm going to make my families. X squared plus 2/3 X, they go together. Plus, Y squared looks like a bachelor, so he's running free. He doesn't need a house, equals 1/3. Now I do completing the square. So I take 2/3, chop it in half, and that makes 1/3. And we're going to square it, which makes 1/9. So that's when I'm adding onto the inside here. And whatever I add on to this side, I also have to add on to the other side. Now, this becomes x plus, remember it's always the number before you square it, and that's the trick, squared, plus y squared equals, now this guy over here becomes 3/9 plus 1/9. So this is 4/9. All right, so that means the center is negative 1/3, 0, because there's nothing attached. And the radius is the square root of 4/9, which is 2/3. And that's all there is to it. So that is page, I think, 5.